Okay, right. Just coming back to see if the reset of the screen made a bit of a difference there. Can you hear me now? Yes, excellent. Apologies for that. As any regulars will know, I very seldom manage to get through one of these without having some technical hitch. So it looked, in this particular instance, it just needed me to turn the camera and things off and put it back on again. But at least you can hear me now. That's absolutely wonderful. Okay, great. So I can take the text off the screen since you can hear me. There we go. I can go there now. And so let me go back over what I was saying. We're going to be looking at impact values today. Because of the nature of impact values, I'm going to look at what they are, how they're calculated, how you can calculate, and they're very easy to calculate, what they actually mean, and then how we can use them to find winners, to know if we have an advantage, don't have an advantage, make a profit. So that's what we are going to have a look at today. And I'm going to do this with some slides because of the nature of impact values and what they are. I think it's easier to see it on an actual slide. So while I'm going through those slides so that you can see things, I won't be able to see questions, but please do ask questions as we go along. At the end, I will come back. I will go through all the questions. I'll answer them. And if we want to see anything on one of the slides again, I'll bring it up so we can see it again and talk through that. So that's absolutely no problem. Like always, this is pretty informal. If you've got any other questions to do with racing, race advisor, anything, please just fire them in. We'll come to those as well. We'll have a chat. We'll talk about them, and we'll see if I can answer any of them there. Believe it or not, you can see here is a new microphone for this evening. So I was hoping that the sound was going to be better than it has been previously. It didn't start great with zero sound, but now that we have overcome that hurdle, we will get started. Don't forget, if you like what you are seeing in this Facebook Live, please do give it a thumbs up, a smiley face, share it with friends. It just lets Facebook know that you like what we're doing, you like the Race Advisor, and it's kind of helpful to spread the word. So thank you for doing that if you do. Right, we're going to have a sip of water. I would recommend you have a pen or pencil, piece of paper handy. You may want to take some notes as we go through this. Okay, so let me bring up the slides. Right. Okay. Now, you'll be able to see on your screen what is an impact value. Now, something that I didn't cater for here was the fact that, there we go. Let me see if I can move that out of the way. There we go. Didn't cater for the fact that my face was going to be in the bottom right-hand side while I made these slides. I will remember to do that in future. Okay, so what is an impact value and how do we make it pay? Okay. What is an impact value and how do we make it pay? Now, I hope you can all see this clearly. In fact, I'm going to see if I can just come out a minute instead. So bear with me a minute because I did not plan for having the my face in the bottom corner. I want to make sure that you can see everything here. So, okay, so what is an impact value and how do we make it pay? Okay, so what is an impact value? So an impact value tells us whether a horse is more or less likely to win than expected. Obviously, if a horse is more likely to win than expected, that in theory means that we have an advantage, we have an edge because we are winning more often than we would expect to by random chance. And if a horse is winning less than expected, then we are better off just simply putting a pin in a piece of paper and finding it. So that's an impact value. It tells us whether the horse is more likely or less likely to win than expected based on a piece of information or a factor or a rating or It could be anything. It could be a combination of races. It can literally be anything. But that's what it tells us about it. So the calculation for an impact value, and I will move my face when we get to the bottom. So the calculation for an impact value is very simply the percentage of winners with a factor divided by the percentage of runners with a factor. Okay, so let me clarify that. Percentage of winners with a factor divided by percentage of runners with a factor. So I've got an example here to try and clarify what this means. So I've taken just a race advisor factor here. The PR odds is our AI tissue odds. So I just used that. It was the first thing that came to hand, and it seemed to be like a good example. So you can see at the bottom there, I've put there are, in the sample that I took, there were 145,629 runners that had PR odds. Okay, so that's just the total number of runners that I looked at. Out of that 145,629, 14,449 of them were ranked number one. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So we had just over 145,000 runners in the sample that I took. And you don't have to use samples this big. Pardon me. You don't have to use samples this big. You can use smaller samples. I just took, I think this is a year. I think I just took a year. Something like that anyway. But so you don't have to use samples this big. You can use samples, with just a few hundred. The more, like anything, the more runners, the more horses you have in the sample, the better. But they don't think that they have to have like 100,000 runners in or anything like that. So we have 145,000, roughly 145,000 runners, and nearly 14,500 of them, or 14,449, are ranked number one. And that represents 9.92% of all runners. Okay, so 9.92% of all runners are ranked number one for PR odds. Of those 14,500 runners that are ranked number one, just under 3,404 of them won their races. So that accounts for 23.5%, 23.56% of horses ranked number one for PR odds won the race. And this is just, there are no race conditions here. This is just every single race that we took. We took races with any condition. So the horses, out of all the horses ranked number one, 23.56% won their race. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If it makes sense, please just leave me a message, drop a comment in just saying, yes, makes sense following so far. That'd be great. So we've got 145,000 runners in our sample. Nearly 14,500 have a PR odds ranked number one, and that accounts for 9.92% of all of the runners. And of those 9.92%, 23.5% won the race. Okay, so the sum now is very, very simple because we want the percentage of winners with a factor, and that's the 23.56%. 23.56% of the horses that were ranked number one won the race. So the percentage of winners with the factor is 23.56. And we divide that by the percentage of runners with the factor. And the percentage of runners who are ranked number one is 9.92%. And that is the percentage of runners from all of the horses we have that are ranked number one. So the sum becomes 23.56 divided by 9.92%. And that's the sum. And that it is that simple to make an impact value calculation. The result of that is 2.38. And you can see that at the bottom. The result is 2.38. And that means that these horses are 138% more likely to win than expected. Now, let me explain why it's 138%. So if the horses that you have chosen here, if the winners with the factor, if your impact value is 1, that means that the horses are winning exactly the same amount as we would expect them to win. Anything above 1 means they're winning more often. So a 1.2 would mean they are winning 20% more often. Okay. Anything below 1 means they're winning less often than we would expect them to. So 0.75 would mean they're winning 25% less because they are 25% less than 1. So at 2.38, we are 138% higher than 1, which means the horses ranked number 1 for PR odds are 138% more likely to win than expected. And I just want to clarify what this expectation is based on. And this expectation is, as you can probably see, it is based purely on the number of runners that have the factor compared to the number of winners from that sample. So it calculates how many runners have the factor. You obviously calculate that at 9.92%. And then the division simply says, well, actually, you are the number of winning horses with this factor is significantly higher than the number of runners with the factor. So if our runners with the factor and our winners with the factor were effectively balanced, the same percentage, it would be level. I hope that is clear. If you want me to go through that again later, please do let me know. So now that is an impact value. However, an AE or the PIV, and these phrases are interchangeable, and I know I am a culprit. I use them both. I'm trying my best to stick to using AE, but PIV is a more international term. It's used in US racing, and it was the term I first learned. So I have a tendency to use that. But AE is the UK term. It's exactly the same thing. I actually think the American term is better because it explains exactly what it does. But basically, the AE stands for actual divided by expected, and PIV stands for pool impact value. And this is an impact value as well, but it's different to the impact value we've just done. And it's better than the impact value we've just done because the impact value we just calculated only takes into account the percentage of runners versus percentage of winners, or the percentage of winners versus the percentage of runners with the factor. And that's all it takes into account. The AE or the PIV takes into account the odds. Okay, so a normal impact value is telling you whether a horse with a particular factor or set of factors is winning more often than expected. And the expectation of that, when we say more often than expected, the expectation is calculated simply by looking at the number of runners with the factor versus the number of winners with the factor. However, with the AE or the PIV, that expected runners is calculated using the odds. And of course, that makes it far more accurate. And it also tells us whether we have a betting advantage as opposed to simply a numbers advantage, if that makes sense. Whether we have a potential profit advantage, i.e. we can bet and make a profit, as opposed to a standard impact value, which is simply telling us that this particular factor or this combination of ratings or whatever we're using is significant in predicting the winner. So the sum we've just done tells us whether a rating, in this case the PR odds, is significant in predicting a winner. And yes, it is. We can see it is. Those horses win 138% more. What it doesn't tell us is whether we have a betting advantage by betting on those horses. It doesn't tell us that information. Using the AE or the PIV, which is the same number, where we calculate the expected runners using the odds, this tells us, this is an impact value that tells us whether we have a betting advantage, whether we're going to make a profit long term. And that's what makes this one better. Okay, so just moving on through that. So why is it better? So I've gone through some of this already, but just to round it up and summarize it, the AE is better because we include the odds of a horse in the calculation, and that tells us if we've got the betting advantage. It creates a far more accurate figure because of that, because we know that the odds are a very accurate representation of a horse's chance of winning. However, if we want to calculate the AE completely accurately, 100% accurately, we must take into account the commission on the betting exchanges or the overrounds on the bookmakers when we do the calculation. And adds a small amount of complexity to it, but it's nothing you can't do with a calculator or a piece of pen and paper. The sound's gone again. Okay, bear with me. Oh no, it hasn't gone again. Sorry, I managed to scroll up. So everybody, is everybody with me so far? Please let me know. Just drop me a quick message. Again, give a thumbs up or a smiley face if you haven't done so far, just so I can see that you're all with me. You can still hear me because I managed to scroll up on the chat there by mistake and saw the no sound messages and thought I had lost the sound again. So to be 100% accurate, we must take account of the commission in the betting exchanges and the over rounds in the bookmaker. Okay. So let's look at the calculation. The PIV or the AE calculation. And what I'll do, because I know my head is covering some of this. Okay, Sharon, don't worry. I will come back to it. Fear not, I will come back. If you've got a bit lost, don't worry. Please do leave me a message. Let me know where you got lost. I will come back and clarify. Okay. And if you are getting a little bit lost with the explanations, fear not either, because I will. The final explanation is very simple. It will show you how to calculate it and then how we can use it. So you don't. If you've got a bit lost as to the reasons and the whys, feel free to ask far away, and then the final element of this should wrap it all up, so you can just go ahead and crack on and use it, even if you got a bit lost, just knowing that you get an advantage from it. And what I will also do is I will drop these slides. I will see. I don't know if I can do it on Facebook or not, but I'll have a look to see if I can drop these slides, because I'm aware that my face is covering a little bit of it, kind of down somewhere over here. Okay. So the AE calculation is very simple. It is winners divided by expected winners, and that's it. The number of winners is simply the actual number of winning horses with the factor. So the number of horses that are ranked number one in PR odds who win the race. Very, very simple. And expected winners is based on the number of winners with the factors. So we're basing this on the odds of the horses. Okay. So winners is the number of winning horses with the factor. Expected winners is based on the odds of the horses. I'm going to show you how we do that right now. So this is how we find the expected number of winners, and I'm doing this for Betfair. Okay. So to find the expected number of winners for each horse, we simply do 1 divided by the odds times 0.98. And the reason I multiply the odds by 0.98 is because Betfair has a 2% commission that we have to take off the odds, right? So to find the expected winners, we take the commission off the odds by multiplying them by 0.98, and we then do the sum 1 divided by that number. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute, so don't panic. And we do that for every horse with the factor. So if we have 100 horses who are ranked PR odds 1, we would do this sum for every single one of those 100 horses against all of their odds. Okay, and this gives us each horse, the probability of each horse winning based on the odds, and then we simply add them all together. We add all those numbers together, and that gives us the number of expected winners. Let me run through an example to hopefully clear that up a bit. Okay, so here's an example that I'm hoping is going to clear this up a bit. So we have winners who are ranked. We take all the horses ranked number 1 for PR odds, and the actual winners, as we already know, is 3,404. Then I take all the horses ranked 1 for PR odds, and I do the sum that we've just talked about. So I take each of those horses and I do 1 divided by the odds times 0.98, and we end up with 3,320 expected winners. And actually, if you would like me to show you these sums on a spreadsheet this evening, leave me a message and I will just show you an example of doing this on a spreadsheet, so you can actually see me doing these sums in a spreadsheet. They're so simple. They really are simple. I know they sound complicated and the process sounds complicated, but when you get it in a spreadsheet, it's very simple. So that gives us our expected winners and our actual winners. And you'll know that we actually do provide some impact values already inside Race Advisor. They're already pre-calculated, and we are in the process of actually building out a lot more so you can use these as well. And then the sum to calculate the AE ratio is actual winners, so 3,404, divided by the expected winners of 3,320. And you'll see that the number here is very different to the first impact value that we calculated. The number here is 1.03 instead of 2.38. There's a very different number. And what this tells us is, and this is why doing it this way is better, because what this tells us is that we have a 3% betting advantage. And that means by betting on these horses, you have a 3% advantage by doing nothing else except just betting on these horses. And that number then becomes very powerful, because we can then use this number to discover whether we've got that long-term betting advantage. And we already know that if we just take these horses, we've got a 3% advantage. We don't do anything else. We just take horses in any race with a PR odds rank 1, and there's a 3% betting advantage there. And you don't have to do this with just one factor. I know I've just used one factor here, but maybe you have 2 factors you want to use. You can do this for each of those factors, both of the factors, and then you can multiply your numbers together to create like a power rating of all of those factors. You can create that power number. And yeah, I see some people are asking for a worked example of the whole process. It's fine. I will do that. I haven't got one prepared, but I will grab some data and I will do that in just a moment so you can see me working through an example of it. And I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll actually do it. I'll do it on, I'll take a little bit of data. I will do it on the PR odds number, and I'll do that in just a moment. Okay. And then we can add another factor in, so I can show you how to combine 2 factors as well if you want to. Right. Because you can use as many factors as you want. You can use any information for this. Any information you can think of, if you can find the number of horses who won with that piece of information and the number of horses that just had the information, then you can calculate an AE ratio, an impact value figure. So here are some examples of just some of the Race Advisor ratings to show you how powerful this piece of information can be, and also how it can highlight factors where you may have a betting advantage without doing much else. And yes, Anthony, absolutely. I'm going to do it on a spreadsheet in a minute. Once we've got the end of these slides, I will then run through an example on the spreadsheet. And I can even show you quickly how you can implement that on a race card as well. So that's no problem. I'll show you the whole lot. So here are just a couple. I've got 2 or 3 examples here. So for example, just some of the Race Advisor ratings. For example, horses with a PFP rating of greater or equal to 1,530 have an AE of 1.13, which means there's a 13% advantage. Nice and simple there. Okay, let's do another example, another rating. Here we go. Horses top ranked for the best ever speed rating on surface in hurdle flat races has an AE of 1.07, so that's a 7% advantage. And then another example, speed figure in the last race adjusted for weight, greater than or equal to 75, has an AE of 1.06, so that's a 6% advantage. And that's just 3 factor examples showing how a piece of information can very simply, one piece of data can, with this information, can highlight actually what may be good to bet on and what may not be good to bet on. And obviously you can expect to get the majority of your ratings and rankings are going to be low. They're going to be 1 or less than 1 most of the time. Hopefully they're not going to be kind of 0.3 or anything that low, but they're going to be less than 1 most of the time, because anything higher than 1, you have a betting advantage, and you can effectively make a profit potentially straight out of the box without doing anything else. Sorry, I put another example here. So this is an example. I put this one in actually so that you can see how we can have multiple pieces of information to do this as well. So in this example, you can see that if we take top ranked horses for 5, 2, 7, 8 on flat turf, who have had a good race between 180 and 365 days ago, and are in the top 4 of the market. So this is like a micro angle. And we can see that if we have all of these pieces of information in place and a horse matches this, there's an 11% advantage on these runners. So that's an example of how we can use multiple pieces of information here. So it's important to understand that an advantage is not the same as a return on investment. Okay, a return on investment won't necessarily match your advantage. So because you've got an 11% advantage doesn't mean you're going to make an 11% return on investment. You could have a higher return on investment. You could have a lower return on investment. But critically, if you've got a betting advantage, you will make a profit. Long term, you'll make a profit. And that's very important to understand the difference there between an advantage and a return on investment. They are not the same thing. But if you have an advantage, then long term, you will make a profit. And the return on investment you will need to work out over the course of your bets or your history. So some of these examples show you can have an advantage with just a single factor. And as I regularly say, getting over the finding winners, finding profits isn't the hardest part of horse racing. It's not to say it's super simple, it's super easy, but it's not the hardest part. The hardest part is getting over losing streaks and downswings, and being able to continue doing what you're doing, confident in the knowledge that there will be a long-term profit. And that's the hardest part, which is why we focus so much on teaching and helping you and supporting you to build strategies on a base, on a solid foundation that works for you, that then you build out. You can test on like real racing. You can become confident in it. You can understand those losing streaks and downswings, because actually finding the profit and finding the advantage is surprisingly easy once you can get through it. Once you're confident in an approach and in how it's going to work and how the bankroll is going to work and how you need to stake it and how long those losing streaks and downswings may last. If you're confident in it, then actually finding that profit isn't so hard. And once you've done that process once, it becomes a repeatable thing. You can then do it for a second strategy and a third strategy and a fourth strategy. And that's obviously what our whole ethos and our focus and the way we teach is about. Is that element. And always remember that even with that advantage, you still need to have a bankroll that can cope with the downswings. It's also important to understand that most of us, me included, most of us want a fully systematic approach. Most of us want that dream. We want to get up in the morning. We want to press a button. We want the selections to be found. We want to bet the selections or throw them into a bot or whatever, and then we want to go out for the day. We'll do whatever we want to do. Most of us want a fully systematic approach. However, for the majority of people, it is far faster to reach profitability by using a combination of a systematic approach to find contenders and then manual form reading or strategy to actually look at those contenders and determine whether they are likely to perform well today or not under the current conditions. For the majority of people, that is going to be the fastest route to profitability. Yes, it will take a bit more time. That is the normal thought, that it's going to take time. I haven't got the time. However, the amount of time that you put into developing a systematic process, fully systematic, where you have an edge that is big enough or an advantage that is big enough to sustain you in the long term, will be far, far greater than the time you spend building a systematic process to shrink your selections down to find contenders that are possibly break even or just under break even, and then you or even maybe slightly profitable, having said that, and then you go into it manually. You take those 3, 4, 6, 7, however many horses a day that you have, and you look at them in detail in the context of the race, because the human brain will see connections that can take a very long time to find systematically, particularly systematically. A lot of the information out there is available to the public, and there isn't an advantage in that information. So you have to find angles that the general public haven't found. And that takes a very, very long time to do efficiently. So for the majority of people, while we want a fully systematic approach, you'll be far quicker to reach a long-term regular profitability by using a systematic approach to find your contenders, and then looking at those contenders and practicing using those contenders to actually slim them down to your final selections. And in that process, deciding how you're going to bet, because you will understand how much advantage you think each of those horses have, how strong they are in the race, and you can structure your bets based on that risk level. Now, if you want to, so I should say that it's also important based on that to understand that you should be prepared to spend a little bit of time getting a strategy to work for you. And actually, it doesn't matter whether you're going for the fully systematic or not. Any strategy requires practice. It requires time investment, whether that time is digging into data, looking for angles, trying to find a systematic approach, or whether it is taking a base strategy, using that as your foundation, and then building it up from there. Both of which are interchangeable, and they can both be done with each other. You get a solid foundation, systematic or not, and build it up from there. But whatever way you look at it, there will be some time required to get a strategy to work for you, to then practice it in a like real environment or paper trade it. But I would recommend a like real environment, and to get comfortable with it enough that you will have the confidence to continue through those downswings, because you understand the downswings. You understand how they work. You understand how many losers you're likely to get in a row. Now you can see, oh, sorry, excuse me. I was just coming in here to copy this link quickly. Copy, there we go. So you can see a full example of a ratings analysis of some of our ratings analysis at this link that I've just dropped into the comments there. If you want to go and have a look, there's a number that we've done. I will be doing some more. We're going to be releasing some more every month. I think we're doing 1 or possibly 2 a month around that, where we're digging into some of our ratings and our factors that we have. And you can see that there. And now what I'm going to do, because there's been a number of requests for this, so I'm going to now create a quick spreadsheet so you can see how to calculate the AE ratio yourself. And then if there's any questions on that, I will take those. So I'm just going to open up a spreadsheet here. Bear with me a second while I get that open. Okay. Right. And okay, so I will just hide that presentation there and bring up the spreadsheet. Okay, so I've got a spreadsheet here. Let me take you through how we do this. So it's totally empty. I am just going to have to grab some data. So let me just pull that up. I'm just going to have to write a quick query to put it out. In fact, no, because it will take a bit of time. I would export it from the software, but it might take 5 or 10 minutes to download it. So I'll put it straight out from the database. So just give me 1 second while I put together a query to do exactly that. And I will just do PR odds rank 1, so you can see it with 1 rating, and I will just take a short period of time of it, maybe 3 months. Should be plenty. Hang on. All right. So we want PR rank, and we want finish position, and we want the odds. Okay. I'll just take, let's say from 2019, the 1st of May, to 2019, the 31st of August. Just make sure I've done that right. Okay. Oh, and I will remove the non-runners. Okay. I'm just going to copy that information into our spreadsheet here. Okay, so there we go. So I've just copied it in, and you can see I've got here. Let me just sort this. Let's make this a number, so it's just 2 decimal places. Okay, easier to see. So you can see I have all horses ranked number 1 for PR odds down here, and in this particular sample there are 4,944 horses. And next to that I've got their finish position, and next to that I have their Betfair SPs. Okay, so hopefully you can see all of that nice and clearly. So to calculate the AE ratio, remember we needed the actual winners, and we needed the expected winners. Okay. Now the actual winners is very simple because that's just the horses that came 1. They had a finish position of 1, they first. So I'm just going to put a count in. So count if any horses in that column are 1. So we can see there's 1,141 actual winners in there. And to calculate the expected winners, I'm going to add another column here. And we can do simply 1 divided by the odds. And what this means is that this horse has a 22% chance of winning. It shows up as a decimal place because it's a probability. If you want to see it as a percentage, if that makes more sense to you, you can hit the percentage sign and you can see it as a percentage, and that's fine. And you see, and if we copy that down, you can see here we calculate all of the horses' percentage chance of winnings based on their odds. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense there. Now, the expected winners is very simply, we add them all together. We add up all of these numbers together. And there is going to be in here, I've got a value error because there's going to be, where we haven't got, we're missing some Betfair odds. So for the ease of simpleness, what I will actually do is I'm going to filter this column. So occasionally we miss the Betfair odds where we haven't been able to get them off Betfair. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to delete these columns for speed. Okay, and then, right. And there we have expected winners now. And I've just added all those numbers together. So I'm just going to take this back. If I can take that off a percentage and put it back to a number instead. So what this is doing, these are the probabilities down here. So this horse had a 0.22 chance of winning, or 22%. This horse had 0.23. And we add up all these probabilities, and that gives us the number of expected winners in this sample. So we would have expected to have 1,155. And you'll notice that that is actually slightly higher than the actual winners. Now, the AE ratio sum was winners, which is that one, divided by expected winners. And you'll see here that that number is actually lower there. It's 0.99 rounded down to 2 decimal places. So it's just below break even. What I haven't done here in this particular sample is I haven't taken account of the 2% commission from Betfair. And we have to take account of that. So we've got to take the 2% commission off if we're going to be totally accurate. So to do that, I'm going to take the odds. In fact, I need 2 brackets here because I need to take the odds, subtract 1 because the commission is only taken off the payout, not the stake. Again, it doesn't matter if that doesn't make sense. You just need to do this sum. and then I'm going to multiply it by 98, so 98%. And I'm going to add the 1 back in. No, I've done something wrong. Hold on. Yep. I haven't got enough squiggly brackets. There we go. There we are. Right. I'm going to multiply that down, and all these numbers are going to change slightly, and you'll notice that this figure jumped from 11, I think it was 50 or 55, up to 1,170 because we've now taken that off. So the expected winners has become slightly higher, and the AE ratio has dropped a bit. So in that particular example, and this is a good example because that shows an AE ratio of 0.97, and that is 3% less than 1. So that would indicate that these horses have a 3% lower advantage. Now, we know that they don't because over a much, much larger sample of runners, they show a 3% advantage. But that's how we calculate it. Now, would it be useful for me to show you how we can actually calculate this on another rating and combine them together to create a form of power rating? If you'd like me to show you that, please just drop a quick comment in and say yes. If you would like me to. If there's not enough interest in that, that's absolutely fine. I can put that into another article at some point anyway. And obviously, if there's any questions on this process, on impact values, on AE ratios and how they work, then please do drop a question in and let me know. And likewise, if you've got any questions on the Race Advisor, ratings, horse racing, strategies, please do drop that in now. So that's the process of calculating it. I can drop this spreadsheet in as well. Yes, Eric, I think so. If I can put a link into, if I can drop these tools into Facebook, then I will put them up there. It might be that they go into a page, and I'm just going to have a quick look now. It might be that they go into the tools section in Facebook, but if that's the case, I will leave that as a comment so you know that they are going in there. So I need to investigate that a little bit. Chris, who wins the 855 next? Should we have a quick look at the 855? James, I will come back to that question. What we'll do is we'll have a very quick peek at the 855. Let me hide this. Come on, let's have a quick peek at the 855. I'm not promising anything, any winners, but we can have a quick look at it. And then I will answer that question, James. And in the meantime, while we do that, 855, if there are any other questions, please put them in now. If there aren't, once I finish that 855 and answer James's question, we will call it close it off at that point. But please do ask any questions if you have any. Right, let's have a very quick look at the 855, then I'll come back to your question, James, regarding the results. Use 104. Sorry, Graham, I'm not quite following. If you'd be kind enough to let me know what you mean by 104, and then I will be more than happy to do that. Okay, here we go. Let's have a quick look at the 855. Where are we? Last race of the day at Chepstow. Good ground. Let's see what we've got here. Class 5 flat turf. Okay, the VDW race scores aren't great, so I'm not going to use those. It's fast pace, we can see here. So early presses, mid-pack most likely. Okay, we've only got a few minutes really, so I'm just going to roll through these very quickly. So I'm going to sort in order of odds, and I'm going to knock out the ones that are high odds immediately. Next, I'm going to have a quick look at the PR odds, and we've got the 3 here. There we go. And I'm going to have a quick look at the probabilities. And again, there's a big jump here, 23, 18, 13. So we've got actually these 2 here are the strongest, Limousin and Shea Hands. And I'm going to put Scorched Earth in there as well, because then, although that's a big jump between Shea Hands and Scorched Earth, it's another even bigger jump down then to, or nearly the same jump down to Bellarico at the bottom. So that's nice to see there. At the moment, we're seeing not much odds advantage on them. Had a quick look there. Days since last good race. Well, Le Musée 11 days ago. Shed Hands 557. I'm going to have a quick look at that in a minute. 206 Scorched Earth. Not too bad, especially considering there's been 3 months with no racing. It's changed to good to soft, has it, Chris? Okay. Right, so that's day since last good race. We've not been able to calculate 5, 2, 7, 8 ratings. We can't always calculate all ratings, unfortunately, and we choose to, if we can't calculate a rating, we don't choose to force the calculation because there's not enough data, the rating won't be accurate, and it just reduces the quality of the actual factor when we can use it. So I'm now going to run a very quick Monte Carlo simulation on these. I'm not going to take anything out, I'm just going to run it with everything in, see how that puts it in there. Oh, thank you, Graham. You would like to have it with that factor. Okay, I will have a quick look at that. Yes, Anthony, there will be the slides somewhere. I'm going to hopefully be able to put them up on Facebook in this video, but it might be that I have to go in a tools section on Facebook. I'm not sure. I've never uploaded files like that to Facebook, so I'll find out, but I will leave a comment under this video on Facebook when they're there. So just keep an eye on the comments and they'll go on there. On the race card, what is the top rated horse? Is it arrows up or down? So Sharon, on a race card, when you sort by that, the arrow just shows you whether it's going high to low or low to high. What you will have, and I'll show you that in a minute, is we can hover over it to find out whether the rating is best is high or best is low. I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so I'm going to exit this. So if you see this, if Sharon, if I just hover over this rating as a factor, you're not, the software doesn't show hover icons. The streaming software doesn't show hover icons, I've just realized. But Sharon, if you hover over in your software, if you go into your software and you hover over any of the ratings for a second or two, you'll get a little pop-up that comes up underneath it. That pop-up will say very first in brackets high to low or low to high. And that tells you whether the best horse is high first or low first. If it's high to low, higher is better. If it's low to high, lower is better. So you can see that on any factor. It will also give you a quick explanation of what that rating and that factor is as well. If you can't find it, drop me another message before we finish today and I'll show you. But we've only got 3 minutes now on this race. So I'm just going to pull up that simulation again here so we can see the results. Here they are. I'm going to sort by order of the results. Immediately we can see Le Musée is the leader, followed by Scorched Earth, which is great. Interestingly, Bellarico comes third, and then Shed Hands is a fair drop down. But significantly better is Le Musée and Scorched Earth. And again, we're going very fast here. So I'm just going to use Le Musée and Scorched Earth. And actually, Shed Hands is the horse that had a huge amount of time off it anyway, since the last good race. And if I just drop that up here quickly, we can see Shed Hands. If we have a quick look, we can see actually that here it was beaten by over 30 lengths. It's not actually run a good race except for this one win anyway. I'm just going to jump in quickly, have a look at Le Musée. I keep pronouncing this name differently every single time, so I do apologize for that. Okay, the going is good to soft. It's 2 miles flat turf. Have a quick look down here. Good to soft, 2 miles 7 furlongs. We can see win, lots of beatens, win, lots of beatens, wins. Good to soft, 2 miles. That's close. Beaten by a short distance, just 0.3 of a length. Just looking for similar-ish races. Most of these races are actually a lot longer. It's definitely not got an issue with the slightly softer ground. On the good ground, 1 mile 6 furlongs, beaten. So actually the softer ground might go in this horse's favor a little bit. Tends to seem to like to win or not. And quickly Scorched Earth, 1 minute to the off. Scorched Earth, 2 miles, heavy, beating a long distance, but the ground's not heavy. 1 mile, 7 furlong, good to soft 1. Excellent. I'm just looking for similar-ish races. Okay, these are hurdle races, though, so that's not ideal, but we haven't got much time. There's not much saying here either way. So let's come back over to this tab here. Just going to have a very quick look at speed, although it's 2 miles. Lemmuzet's at the top. I'm going to have a quick look at pace. Not much to go on pace there. Haven't got a huge amount of data on pace. Lemmuzet's had lots of good runs recently, but Scorched Earth possibly better form history, might have raced against slightly stronger runners. Okay, we're going to jump over to Betfair because this race is about to go off if I haven't missed the off. Let's just jump over to Betfair here. Hopefully you can see Betfair now. Okay, they're going behind. Scorched Earth 5.7, Lemuzet 2.74. I'm not sure the difference is that much, to be honest. Scorched Earth should do a place, possibly a win. If we do an 80-20, we could consider a Dutch. If we do an 80-20, we'll easily make that profit back. For example, if we put an 80-20 on that, you see we'd make £7 there in the place. And what would we do on the win? It's open. Let's just drop that in at SP. Oh, it got matched, so we £9 there. So we would easily cover with that. Obviously, there wasn't really much time here. I would have preferred a little bit more time to have a look at Bellerico, to be honest, as well. If we come back to the win market, now Scorched Earth dropped below Shea Hands, so it's come into second favourite. And third, Bellerico is third, fourth down here. Possibly got some edge now we've gone into it. Lemuzet, you could have Dutched that, but possibly not enough of an advantage there. There definitely seems to be a too big a disparity between the quick glance that we did in like whatever that was, 4 minutes between Lemuzet and Scorched Earth. There definitely seems to be too much of a disparity between the shorter odds on Lemuzet and the slightly higher odds there on Scorched Earth. Also, because of the time, we can de-risk that bet a bit by going for a place on Scorched Earth. And obviously we can have, there's a number of ways we could look at it. If you're a trader, you'd already be able to trade this out for a 1% profit, 2% profit, 2.5% profit to green up if you're a trader, which is already quite nice. So that was a bit of a big rush. Sorry, there's been some questions coming in while that was going on. Chris, you're on Bellerico, quite possibly right. Who else? Graham, you're on Lemuzet. You may well be right as well. Yeah, Chris, thank you. It was hurdles flat, but there weren't enough races. You're absolutely right. That was exactly it. Dutch is another possible bet, Graham. Absolutely. Hi, Carl. Thank you for being able to join us. Wonderful to see you, that you could make it here. This race is going to go on for a little bit because it's 2 miles. So it's going to be a few minutes. So were there any other questions while that race is happening? Were there any other questions? Have I missed anything there? There was obviously the question from James. Have you analyzed the results produced? Let me put this up actually so you can see it. Have you analyzed the results produced by Aldermist, and were there any ratings that outperformed the others or that surprised you? So Aldermist is like real racing, and what I mean by that is it simulates racing in as close to a like real environment that it is possible to get. So we don't know who's going to win the race before the race takes place. There is all the history there. You've got the trainers, the jockeys, the horses. They all have their own histories. They're all on the right time frames. They've got all of the factors, all of the ratings. You can analyze them exactly as a real race. So the analysis of it would be the analysis of the ratings. Those ratings will work the same on Aldermist as they will on live racing. So in answer to your question, there is a series of articles going on the blog where we are looking at the Race Advisor ratings. Some of the ratings we look at one at a time. We look at some of the basic breakdowns from race types, race types going, and some race conditions to see where we may be able to get an advantage. We won't always be able to get an advantage from a single rating, but sometimes we will, and we have been able to do that. So let me just drop the link in. You can see all of those. Articles just here. I'm just going to drop that link in again. And there will be more going out. As I say, we're doing 1 or 2 every month, adding to it. It looks like Lemuse won. Well done, Graham. You're on that, but we're okay because we took the place bet on Scorched Earth. So what did I say? I say just £10 on this. It was very quick. So we still made a £7 profit on that bet, minus the £2 for the win bet. These are £5 profit on a £10 bet. That's a 50% return in the 4 minutes that we took to analyze that race. And which, you know, thank you very much. That quite happy to have that 50% return. Sorry, I've just seen the comments going there between Sharon and Graham and whatever. So that's how we're going to do it. I am actually planning on doing James. Sorry, James. I hope that answers that question. If that doesn't answer that question, then please do let me know, and I will happy to go into it in more detail. Please do take a look at those articles on that blog post, because it does exactly that. We are looking at some of the ratings, how they work, which ones can outperform others, under what conditions. And we are going through them all. We're starting off by going through the ones on the standard race card, and then we will start to look at some of the ones that are not on that standard race card. Okay, so just going to hide that now. Will this webinar be repeated on the race? Sorry, Sharon, I didn't mean to put that one up. You did win a race. I'm very pleased to hear it. Massimo, will this webinar be repeated? This is a Facebook Live, so this will stay on Facebook. We will also put it up on YouTube, and I will email out a link to the YouTube if you prefer using YouTube later. I will try and upload the slides that were earlier on in this in this Facebook Live, and I will also try and upload that spreadsheet as an example of how to calculate AE. I am planning on, at some point, I'm planning on making a video about how we can do exactly what we just did, which is look at a race last minute, jump in it with a good assessment, and try and come out with a quick profit. So a kind of trading angle, but without actually trading horses. So jumping in and out of races, but not trading. So straight betting, or potentially laying, either way. But I'm planning on doing that at some point, which I hope you will enjoy. Not very many people do that, but it does require some practice to get used to it and to get good at it. So there don't seem to be any more questions, so thank you very much for joining. I am loving the comments and the chat and the conversation. It's absolutely wonderful. I won't be back tomorrow, but I'm doing one of these every single month now. If you are an RA Pro member, on the 4th week of every month, I think it's the 4th week, don't hold me to that, I think it's the 4th week that we said we were going to schedule them in. We will be doing a live training meeting session where we've done one before. It was really popular, it went really well, where basically we'll all jump into a Zoom meeting room. I'll go through either a strategy, some staking, a method, whatever the topic is for that month, that day. We'll go through it. Then you can ask me questions. You can obviously, because it's a meeting room, you can be on camera, you can use your microphone, we can just chat, we can it's just a group private training session. And if you're an RA Pro member, there will be an invite going out to that. And I think it's in the 4th week of the month that will be. So I hope you'll be able to join me on that. And thank you very much for joining the Facebook Live. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please do share the Race Advisors page, share our content, hit the like buttons, let people know that we're here. Absolutely loving doing this. We've got some great stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, Ascot starts tomorrow. There's going to be, I've looked at a race. I've looked at the King's Stand race tomorrow. You'll get an email about that around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning when it gets published. So that will go out. You'll be able to see who I'm betting on. I would love to know who you're going to be betting on. If you agree with my analysis or disagree with it, do please let me know. Drop me a comment at the bottom. I would love to know who you're going to be following in that race. So keep an eye out for that email. I'll send that out tomorrow morning with the link in for that analysis of that race. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. It's been wonderful to have you here. Hope you'll be able to join me on the next one next month as well. And I hope some of you were able to jump into that last race along with I think Chris, Sharon, Graham, and all walk our way with a little bit of profit. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you very soon. Take care, and bye for now.